Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Inside Arsenal. I hope you're all well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. You're having a very, very good weekend. It's been a little bit quiet on the Arsenal front in the last day or so after such a pretty manic period in the build up to the weekend, but there's still quite a lot to discuss today. We'll talk about Granit Xhaka. We'll talk about Emile Smith Rowe. Pablo Mari's put out a very nice statement, I thought was worth looking at. We've got lots of questions and comments from you about various topics as well. So still plenty to get our teeth into on this Sunday. So we'll start with Granit Xhaka, shall we? Because I keep getting lots and lots of questions about Granit and what's happening with him. Of course, at the end of last season, it was an absolute certainty that he was gone. He said his big goodbyes to the crowd in that final game of the season. And, he just walked around so slowly behind everyone else saying all his goodbyes. He said goodbyes to everyone inside the stadium as well, behind the scenes. He was saying his goodbyes. But what are we now? Well over a month after the end of the season, and he's still here. That move to Leverkusen has not happened. So I keep getting lots of questions. What happened with Granit? Is he going to stay? Is he going to stay? Well, I can never say never. He's a hugely popular player. Mikel Arteta values him highly. I think in an ideal situation, Granit Xhaka would probably stay for a bit for Arsenal, especially going into the Champions League because of the experience he brings, because of the quality he brings, how popular he is behind the scenes. But having said all that, I still think right now, while I'm sitting here, my sort of hunch or my understanding of the situation is still that Granit Xhaka is very, very likely to leave this summer and head to Leverkusen. That transfer is kind of on hold a little bit at the moment while Arsenal do other things, bring some players in. Once those players are through the door, we've already seen Kai Havertz arrive. Obviously, Declan Rice, fingers crossed, will be very, very soon as well. And then I think that might lead to the Leverkusen thing moving forward. There are stories at the moment that Arsenal perhaps want to try and get a little bit more money out of Leverkusen. I can't say that for sure, but that is some of the reports that are doing the rounds that maybe Arsenal are looking for a little bit more money for them. But, Granit is certainly was expected to leave at the end of last season. Like I said, he said his goodbyes on the pitch to the fans, behind the scenes. And I don't think right now that is changing. Like I said, you can never say never. Of course, things can happen. Players can change. Granit Xhaka has been very, very close to leaving Arsenal more than once before, and he's ended up staying. But I still think this time, where we are right now, the likelihood is that this move to Leverkusen does happen. It happens for him, for his family. It's a big, long contract on the table from Leverkusen. He's not getting that length of contract here at Arsenal, going back to Germany with his family. And it's all sort of come together to tick the boxes as to why Granit would be open to this move, despite Arsenal finally getting back into the Champions League and him playing such a key part in that. So, yeah, for all the questions that I've had, everyone sending them in about Granit, that's all I can kind of say at the moment about it, that from where I sit right now, from the people that I've spoken to, I'm still expecting this one to go through at some point pretty soon this summer. Okay, so that's the latest on Granit Xhaka. Now, Declan Rice is obviously going to be very, very key to this Xhaka move going through. Should Declan Rice not happen for whatever reason, despite things being agreed with West Ham right now. But as we know, the full payment structure of this deal is not quite done and dusted and signed off. Until that happens, then this transfer cannot go through and Declan Rice cannot be Arsenal's club record signing. I do expect it to happen. I don't think there's going to be some massive U-turn and these talks are going to collapse. Certainly not from where I'm sitting right now. But it is, there's still talks to be had to get this one over, fully over the line. But it is still going on. I think there's a big hint that I don't know if any of you've seen yet, but here on the West Ham website, look, what name is missing there? What name can't you have on the back of your West Ham shirt at the moment? Very glaring omission from that list is, of course, their captain, Declan Rice, which makes a lot of sense because if you're West Ham, why would you be selling shirts with Declan Rice's name on the back of it now? I think this says a lot in terms of what West Ham are thinking and how close this move is to going through. So, normally he'd be there, Declan Rice, number 41. But I'm pretty sure soon you'll be able to get that name and that number on the back of your shirt at Arsenal. I'm expecting him to take 41 at Arsenal. Obviously, that's not confirmed yet, but I do expect that will happen. and Declan Rice will be Arsenal's new number 41 very, very soon. Hopefully, by the end of this week, it will become very, very clear that this is going to go through, and everyone can kind of move on, because it needs to happen now, doesn't it? It's dragged on for so long. We've all been waiting for it. Just want to see Declan Rice in that Arsenal shirt, know he's there, and then the rest of things can happen this summer in terms of moving players on, which is going to happen, as I said, about the Granit Xhaka type thing. And Arsenal can focus on other areas when it comes to the squad building that is taking place at the club at the moment. One player who could potentially benefit again from Granit Xhaka leaving, of course, this summer, is this man who I've spoken about a lot recently, Emile Smith Rowe. If you're looking at this and watching this on YouTube, you can see Tom Barkley there, excellent reporter at The Sun, who's overdoing England under-21s at the moment, where Emile Smith Rowe is in action at the European Championships. They're playing tonight, actually, against Portugal in the quarter-final. Fingers crossed England can get through, book their spot in the semis. He's done an interview, Tom, with Emile over there, talks about a wide range of things, talks about Declan Rice, how impressive Declan Rice is. Emile Smith Rowe, when he went over with England when he was in the senior team, he said he was blown away by just how good Declan Rice was at so many things. He said he wasn't expecting it, and he was that good. He also talked a little bit about Kai Havertz's arrival, because we kind of look at that position. It appears that Mikel Arteta has got earmarked for Kai Havertz, that kind of Granit Xhaka type role, whether it's the exact same position that Granit's going to play, or whether there's going to be a slight tweak to the system with Kai Havertz in there. But it certainly looks like that left-sided number 8 role is the role that Kai Havertz has been earmarked for from Arsenal. Mikel Arteta even calling him a midfielder in that announcement video. And I think that's also an area where we could see Emile Smith Rowe play quite a lot of minutes this season in that role. So it's going to be extra competition for him. And in that interview with Tom asked Emile about that. This is what he had to say about kind of keeping an eye on what's going on with the transfer window and Kai Havertz. He said, I see what happens, and obviously it's good for the club to add strength to the team. I feel like the additions we're making are really going to help the team progress again. It's really exciting. So hopefully we can go one step further next season. Of course, the arrival of Havertz brings extra competition, but this is football. You've got to just get on with it. I've got to keep working hard, and it's healthy competition. I've got to keep fighting. And that's just the right mindset. It's a mindset you have to have. If you're at a club like Arsenal, you cannot expect just to be given opportunities. You've got to earn the opportunities. And that, I think, is what Mikel Arteta is all about. It's what he's brought to this squad. It's how he's improved this squad, and the mindset at this club is that it's about earning your opportunities. If you earn them, you'll get them, and then you can try and keep your place in the team. And I think that competition is going to be so crucial to Arsenal next season, knowing that you can't afford to rest on your laurels, because there's someone right behind you in the squad waiting to take your place if you do that. Last season, Arsenal fell short, and I've said this so many times, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but they fell short, not because of the starting 11, but because the squad wasn't good enough. When those key players missed out in the starting 11, the players who came in just weren't at the required level to ensure that the drop-off in standard and in form and in performances was not that great. But it was. The drop-off was big. You saw that when Rob Holding, for example, came in for William Saliba, and that's not digging out Rob Holding, it's just a fact. And there was other areas as well. And so Arsenal need to be better in the first 17 or 18 in the squad, not just the start 11. If you can have Smith Rowe chomping at the bit, firing on all cylinders, really pushing Kai Havertz for his place in the team, that's only going to benefit Arsenal and the club and the team and fans, of course. So, hopefully everyone's got that mindset, and the extra competition, the new signings coming in this summer are certainly going to help Arsenal improve with that. Okay, let's quickly talk about Pablo Mari. I want to talk about Cesc Fabregas as well, and I'm going to talk about him in a minute because he's, of course, announced his retirement. But I thought this was nice from Pablo Mari. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see what I'm talking about. If not, and you're listening on podcast, you can. It's basically Pablo Mari sent out a little bit of a message after his move to Monza was made permanent yesterday and fully announced. Pablo took to his social medias and gave a little message to Arsenal fans. He said, as my contract with Arsenal comes to an end, I wanted to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to thank each and every one of you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent this great and historic club, for all the memories we lived together, and for the support I always received. It's been an immense honour to wear the Arsenal jersey and to win 2 titles with this club. The Gunners will always have a place in my heart. Now, I spoke about Pablo a bit yesterday. Obviously, it didn't quite work out. He only made 22 appearances. He came in that first transfer window in the January when Arsenal didn't really have any money, and they bought Pablo Mari and Cedric Suarez. But he was always such a popular player behind the scenes. Pablo Mari, everyone liked him. He was really he settled in really well. He made a big impact behind the scenes. He was very, very popular. You saw that when that horrible attack happened in Italy when he was out on loan. You saw the response from everyone at Arsenal to that. He was so popular, really well liked, and just a nice guy. And I thought that statement yesterday was a real touch of class from a very classy player. And I really hope he goes on and has a really good career for himself in Italy. And quickly on Cesc Fabregas. Now, this is a player I think arguably. Oh, it's hard, but who's the best Arsenal player of the Emirates era? I mean, Cesc has got to be right up there. I mean, Alexis Sanchez was absolutely monstrous for a time. Mesut Ozil, of course, was excellent for quite a bit of the time. He was at Arsenal. Not always, but excellent. But I think for me, Cesc and Santi Cazorla are my favourite two Arsenal players of the Emirates era. I thought they're both absolutely mercurial. I mean, Cesc, for what he did at such a young age, just an amazing footballer to watch him, to captain the team the way he did. Obviously, the way he left a sour taste in the mouth of a lot of people, myself included, as a fan I'm talking about here. You know, he could have handled it better. He definitely could have handled it better. But I think from Cesc's point of view, obviously, he'd given a lot of time to Arsenal. He'd carried that team for a long time. He knew that the club weren't investing like they should have been to give him some help, and he had a club, and he had Barcelona calling his club, his hometown club, who were the best team in the world at the time, managed by the best manager in the world. It was very hard to say no. Like I said, he could have handled it better. I mean, he basically went on strike, and that was not a good thing. And it was a difficult summer for all Arsenal fans to endure. But I don't think that should take away from what he did as a player at Arsenal and what the career he's had. You know, at Barca, at Chelsea. I mean, everywhere he's gone, he's just been such a brilliant footballer. And he was one of the most amazing young talents I've ever seen come through at Arsenal or anywhere. You know, he was that good. He was a special generational type player. And it's no wonder to see the career he's gone on to have and the trophies that he's won. But he has retired now, and he put that statement out on social media yesterday, saying it's great sadness that the time has come to hang up his playing boots. He thanked everyone who'd played a long part of his career through the way. He said he's going to carry on now, start coaching. He's been doing a lot of coaching at Arsenal already. Mikel Arteta has invited him back lots and lots of times. He's been working with the youth teams at Arsenal while he sort of builds up his coaching experience. He's going to be coaching at Como, the Italian club that he's investor in. And it wouldn't surprise me one day to see him at Arsenal, especially if Mikel Arteta stays around. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see it happen at some point. Not now, obviously, because he's just cutting his teeth in coaching with Como. But if he does well, I wouldn't be surprised. Him and Santi Cazorla ended up back at Arsenal in some capacity in terms of coaching. You know, Santi's still playing, I think, still hasn't quite hung up his boots yet. Cesc has, and end of an era, really. But what a player, what a talent. And yeah, I'm sure everyone who, like me, watched Cesc come through and watched him play the way he did, feel very sort of fortunate that they were there to see such an amazing talent come through. Okay, let's move on to some of your questions and your comments, shall we, before we end today's episode. It's an interesting one, I thought, from Tobe Zambi. He says, hey, Charles, bit of a football culture question. When did this obsession and relentless following of transfers really start? Also, has there always been ITKs when it comes to transfer rumours? I mean, it's mad. The transfer window's crazy. It gets madder every single summer. It's when you said, when did it start? When did this obsession start? I think it's obviously social media. It's a social media age. Before that, there wasn't anything like that for football fans to follow every single minute detail of a transfer. I think that's where the obsession comes. I mean, it's mad as a journalist when you report something and the first comment underneath that it tends to be, okay, so what else is happening? It's mad. It's like there's an unquenchable thirst to know what's next. And obviously we didn't have that when I was younger. All we could phone up Team Talk, that premium phone line, and get rumours that basically have just been said off the back pages of the newspaper. And we had to wait for the newspapers every morning to come out, to read them, to find out what might be happening. And that was where we got our transfer rumours and transfer speculation from. But it's a completely new age now. And now there's just so much stuff constantly being pumped out on social media, reporting of every single step of a transfer when, to be honest, there's only a couple of steps of a transfer, really. And that's interest, bid, agreed, done. But now it's everything. It's like every step of the medical needs to be reported. And it's just mad. It's like this unquenchable thirst. So I think I just think when you say when did it start, I just think it was the advent and the explosion of social media is when it started. And when he says there's always been ITKs when it comes to transfer rumours, I mean, not before social media. Those ITKs were just basically the journalists who were reporting stories that we'd pick up the newspapers the next morning and read them. There was no other place really for ITKs other than word of mouth in a pub to spread those, rumors, speculation, whatever around, because there wasn't social media. So thanks for that. Interesting one, I thought, from Tobes there. Now here's one from Illuminati. It's 1968. It says, is there a chance that Reuell, Walters and Miles to go out on loan this year, or will Holding's pending departure prevent Reuell from going? I think there's a good chance that Reuell Walters goes out on loan this season. He's very highly rated. Mikel Arteta does like him. He's more experienced than anyone else in that sort of current crop coming through. He's obviously played some games last summer on the tour matches as well. He's always been in around the first team squad. He trains a lot with the first team squad. He just looks a little bit more physical than most of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal move him out on loan this season and think that that would be better for his development than a season with the under 21s. I can't say for certain. I don't think Miles will go out. I just think he's still a little bit young, and they'd rather keep him around, give him another season. Because, Miles is still basically under 18s player. He's beginning to play in the under 21s, but I think he'll have a season in the under 21s. I think all that current crop, Miles, Mario, Ethan, Wanyeri, I think all those lot will stay around for another season. I can't say for certain, obviously, and some really young players have gone out on loan before. But like Brooks, Norton, Cuffy was a prime example of that. But I just feel that those three will probably stay around and have another season with the 21s just to continue their development. But Reuell, I think he might well go out on loan this summer. Okay, here's another one from Encos by the looks of it. It says, hi, Charles. Thanks always for your videos. I've got a question about the players who went out on loan last year. I know there's a lot in motion, but realistically, who has a chance of sticking with the club this year? Lokonga, Marquinhos, Trusty. 15 months ago, people were saying Marcelo Flores might be a surprise World Cup call-up for Mexico. Do people at the club still think highly of him? And Charlie Patino, is there any chance of holding on to him? Thank you very much for your question here. Okay, in terms of some of those players that you've said then, I don't think any of those are going to come back and play a part this season. I have to say, I think Lokonga will go potentially to Burnley. I think there's stuff going on with that at the moment that might well progress in the next week or so. There's certainly some rumblings that could happen. Marquinhos, I think, will go out on loan again. I'll be surprised if he sticks around, especially with Reece Nelson signing a new contract. I think Marquinhos needs a good season, a full season. He obviously had spent the second half of last season at Norwich, but I think he needs a full season somewhere. It doesn't have to be in England, maybe abroad, but I think he'll go on loan. I think Arsenal could well sell Austin Trusty this summer if a good bid comes in for him. I did an interview of Austin not so long ago, and he said his dream was absolutely to come back and try and make his mark at Arsenal. But I think realistically, the most likely option is that Arsenal look to sort of make a pretty quick profit on him. And he had a very good season at Birmingham last season, so they might be able to do that. Marcelo, that Arsenal have taken up a 2-year option on his contract to extend his contract. It's not a new contract. They've just taken up the option, which is very similar. Well, it's exactly the same as what they did with Charlie Patino. I can't see Marcelo sticking around this summer. I think he'll go, whether that be on loan or potentially permanent. I'm not sure. It's a very similar situation to Charlie. It's just the sort of timings aren't quite right. I don't really see where Marcelo or Charlie's pathway is to the first team right now. So it could well be that, like Charlie, who when you say, is there a chance of holding on to him? I don't think so. I think Arsenal and Charlie's people are still working on getting him a move. I think something similar could happen with Marcelo. But again, with both of them, I think if Arsenal do make a permanent deal for those this summer, there will be some sort of buyback option potentially included in both of those as well. But so yeah, of all those players you listed, I think I'd be very surprised if any of them stick around this season in around the first team. This is an interesting one. How true is the rumour that Kai Havertz is earning about 350k a week? Now, I can't clarify this 100%. I've seen the stories, and I just don't believe. I just can't. There is. I mean, obviously, this is basically me. This is opinion. This isn't. I wish I had the proper information to be able to give you on this one, but Arsenal are very close ranks when it comes to finances and who's being paid what. I've seen this come out. I think it came out in Germany. I cannot imagine that Arsenal would be giving Kai Havertz that sort of money. He would not. That's basically 100 grand more than anyone else at Arsenal is getting at the moment, and I just don't see that. You don't sign someone in and absolutely obliterate your wage structure and put him on more money than Bukayo Saka. I mean, what's Kai Havertz done to earn being Arsenal's top earner? I think he's an exciting sign, and he could do very well. He's got lots of potential, but he's underperformed for Chelsea. He's not really pulled up any trees in the Premier League. So how can he walk in on 350 grand a week? I don't buy it. I think if there is any way of him getting up to that amount of wages, I think it would be heavily incentivized. I think his basic rate would be way, way below that, in and around the sort of top earners at Arsenal, but not 100 grand more than them. So no, I like I said, I can't absolutely clarify it myself, but I don't buy it. I don't think he'd be on that money. Certainly not a flat rate. I don't buy it. Okay, and finally for me, this is an interesting one. John, I was talking about Nicolas Pepe yesterday, and he said, I think the last straw for Pepe in what I think was possibly his last match for us, someone will remember it better than me. We really needed a goal at the end. Pepe had a ball in open space in the final third and had an option to cross to someone for an easy goal, but instead took the ball towards the corner flag, and that was game over. After the whistle, one of the coaches ran straight to him. Having ran at that point, he was history. I do remember this, John. It wasn't exactly like that. It was actually against Leeds, wasn't it? It was in that game when Arsenal pushed him to finish towards the end of that season when Arsenal pushing to finish in the top four. Arsenal 2-1 up against Leeds. Leeds down to 10 men, were pushing. It was very tense. I think the keeper went up for a corner, and then Arsenal broke from that corner, and Pepe basically had an open goal. He had a long way to run. He was inside his own half, but he had an open goal to sort of go at. But instead, he chose not to do it, and he went off towards the corner flag and lost the ball, and it all just and the coach ran on at the end. It was basically, and Arteta they were both staggered on the touchline about what had happened, that he didn't just go for it. And I think that the point with that, and I remember an incident in the game against Aston Villa away earlier that season as well, when Arsenal won 1-0. And in the last sort of seconds, Pepe gave away, he'd come on as a substitute, and Arteta was not happy with what he'd been doing since he came on as a sub. And then in the last seconds, he gave away a really dangerous free kick, which Leno ended up doing well to push away. But it's those sort of instances, that kind of, when I talk about sort of football brain and how much Mikel Arteta values that in his players, I think those sort of instances and examples why Mikel just doesn't really trust Nicolas Pepe fully. Thinks he's a talented player, no doubt, but I think in terms of his trust and doing exactly what Mikel wants from his players, which we know is very important for Mikel Arteta, the structure, is that I don't think he really has enough trust in Nicolas Pepe to pull that off and his decision-making at the pitch in high-pressure situations. But thank you very much for everyone for joining today's episode. If you've been watching this, like I said, on YouTube, or if you've been listening to it on the various podcast platforms that it is available on, thank you very much. I hope you've all had a very, very good weekend. And have a good Sunday. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss all things Arsenal.